Jump off that exhausting hamster wheel and into balanced living with Dr. Marissa.
Promise you joy in the mystery.
Dr. Marissa, also known as the Asian Oprah. Her mission, to be a beneficial presence on the planet. Her purpose, to be your personal advocate to live, laugh, love, learn. Her life motto, don't die wondering. Take back your life with Dr. Marissa Pay.
And welcome. You are tuned into Take My Advice. I'm not using it. Get balanced with Dr. Marissa, the morning show here on KCAA, AM 1050, FM 102.3, FM 106.5, and streaming everywhere. iHeartRadio, Audible, Stitcher, Spotify, Amazon Music, you name it, because I want to splatter more hope and happiness on you. I'm on a happy 88 mission, 88 million more happy people in the next 8 years. Why? Because your happiness makes you feel better. When you feel better, I feel better. When I feel better, I am more able to be in the solution for all of the things that seem to be troubling us these days. And some of you know, I get to do some beat reporting in my spare minutes in my life that I really love. And I love to balance out all the bad news with good news and highlights from people, places, and things around Los Angeles that make my heart sing, because I know that they are doing things that help balance out hate. And my first report is no exception to that. I was able to go and cover the Chicano Moratorium. And it was the 51st anniversary Chicano Moratorium, with a day of demonstrations against police brutality and poverty. The Chicano Moratorium is the biggest Chicano social justice protest against the Vietnam War, ending with 4 fatalities, 40 injured, and 400 jailed demonstrators. And it was a day to remember. And so I got together with the organizer, who explained why he was there. And it was a great day of not just fabulous music, but also a lot of free vaccines and booths. And it was just a great day. So enjoy his interview.
Good morning, Dr. Marissa, reporting live. You know me as the Asian Oprah. I'm here with a very important event. I'd like you to introduce yourself and tell me why you're here.
My name is Miguel Vigil Lopez. I'm one of the co-chairpersons of the 50th Chicano Moratorium Committee. The original 51-year button is right here that we wore when I was 17 years old, and we marched from this park all the way uptown. It was called Laguna Park. It's now called Salazar Park. And it was a very huge event in 1970. It was broken up by the police, a lot of violence, and that was also the day Ruben Salazar was assassinated.
Wow. Now, this was a march for what?
The march was against the war in Vietnam. There was a high percentage of young Chicanos being killed, disproportionate to our population. And also was the issues of the Chicano civil rights movement for higher education rights, for equality, for jobs, housing, and immigrant rights.
So today, why are we here to recognize?
Well, number one, recognizing August 29th as such a very important historic date for our people. This is the 51st year since 1970 demonstration, and we don't want anybody to forget what the issues were and what happened that day, and we want it in the books,
yes,
the right way, with a correct narrative, not something that's mixed up and changed by somebody that was never there.
Right. So what do you say to people today about valuing diversity, ending racism, making sure something like that never happens again?
Same thing we said 51 years ago. We're against racism, we're against fascism, we're against all that inequality and disparaging other people, especially our people, when you actually had a U.S. president go on national news and say Mexicans are drug pushers and criminals.
Yeah.
And there was another example of racism and how they denigrate our people.
Yes.
And so the message is the same.
Yeah.
We're still fighting the same fight, And it's changed. I'm not going to say it hasn't. It's changed. We have a lot more professionals in fields that we never had, and we're moving forward, and we're going to continue to kill that disease, racism.
Yes, absolutely. Thank you so much. I do a little thing. It's called Peace In, Peace Out, World Peace Through Inner Peace.
I agree totally.
Peace in,
peace
out, world peace
World
through
peace.
inner peace. This is Dr. Marissa reporting live.
And it was great. KTLA was there as well. I got to meet his daughter, granddaughter, and I love people who remember, not with hate, but with an effort to focus on making sure things don't happen again like that. So kudos to him. I'm going to try to get him on the show to come and talk about the other things that his group does. I also got to travel to Hollywood, to the United Methodist Church, who was doing something a little innovative with their free vaccine program. Again, absolutely encouraging everyone to get their vaccines. And I caught up with 3 of the frontline workers administering the free vaccines, and this is what they had to say.
This is Dr. Marissa reporting live here in Hollywood, and I have some wonderful healthcare workers who are here providing free vaccines. And every time there's going to be a vaccine, the bell is going to ring in the church behind here. Please introduce yourselves and tell me why you're even here.
Hi, my name is Carol. I'm an LVN, and I'm here just, trying to help everybody get vaccinated.
Hi, Elisa Mendez saying we just want to make sure everybody's safe. Come on out.
Hi, my name is Oswaldo Castillo. I'm an LVN, and yes, coming out. We're here until 5 today. Always get vaccinated just to help yourself and your community.
Why is it that a lot of people don't want to get a vaccine? Can you dispel some of the myths?
One of them that I heard is, I guess some people talking about it creates a magnetic field inside their bodies. A lot of this stuff comes in from, you see this stuff in YouTube and places like that, like TikTok. But if you come out, you try, you'll see it's just a vaccine like any other vaccine that you've taken in your life. It won't kill you. It'll definitely help you and build your immune system.
Yeah, I was just thinking of, we don't hesitate to get our pets vaccine, right?
Right.
And for their own safety. So what? I just don't understand. You have any 2 cents for me?
I just think it's just a misinformation, and just you need to really inform yourself from some credible sources and then just make a decision from there.
Yeah, agreed. Yeah. So this is what I do at the end of every show. I do a peace in, peace out, world peace through inner peace. Yeah. Oh, somebody just got a vaccine? Oh, no, that's the noon. That's it. I jumped the bell. Ready? Peace in, peace out. World peace through inner peace. Dr. Marissa reporting live here in Hollywood. What church? This is the Hollywood United Methodist Church. So we're here till 5 o'clock. The address is the corner of Franklin and Highland.
I believe so.
In Hollywood, California. So if you haven't been vaccinated, help yourself, keep safe, help your loved ones, get a vaccine.
Come on by.
Have the best day ever.
And I just loved meeting with them. I'm so grateful and honored that both Carol and Elisa were kind enough to get my 8 Ways to Happiness from Wherever You Are book, which absolutely has been helping people with their happiness, and proceeds go to Habitat for Humanity as well as my nonprofit 8 Ways to Happiness. So because they enjoyed it, I'm going to offer the free audiobook version for my Asian Oprah giveaway today. So if you're not as happy as you want to be, then this is the book for you. We'll be right back with more. Take my advice. I'm not using it. Get balanced with Dr. Marissa, the morning show here on KCAA, the station that leaves no listener behind.
back your life with Dr. Marissa Pay.
And we're back. You're tuned in to Take My Advice. I'm not using it. Get Balanced with Dr. Marissa, the morning show here on KCAA, AM 1050, FM 102.3, FM 106.5, and streaming everywhere. All major platforms, including iHeartRadio, Spotify, Stitcher, too many to name, but the best place to get all my past 521 shows over a 488 consecutive week period is my YouTube channel. It is a free subscribe. Not only will you get all past shows, you'll also get my interviews with Halle Berry and John Travolta. That's on my red carpet playlist. For those of you who enjoy my singing, that is also something you can get. And if you didn't know, this was my birthday month. And if you want to support the work that I do, helping teens, children, young adults who have temporarily forgotten their birthright to happiness, then there's only 2 days more to donate to my fundraiser. If you go on Facebook, you'll see it pinned to the top there. I'm so grateful to all those who have donated. We're, let's see, last year's goal was 200 and we exceeded it by $65. So this year I decided to do a stretch to $800. Those of you who are wondering, why does she keep saying 8 all the time? 8's a lucky number in Chinese. It's a homonym for good fortune. So this year I set it at 800. I'm very, very happy to say we're at $468. But if you'd like to support, any donation will do. And every donation over $20 gets a gift, something from my shop at drmarissa.life. So there's a little commercial there. But we're going to go into the question of the day today. And that is, how can you be motivated when there's nothing to be motivated about? How can you be motivated when there's nothing motivated to be around you? So, obviously, I've heard this question or comment all over the place over this last 18 months of the pandemic. If you look out and if you start your day with the news or with social media, you'll know that there's not much to be happy about, and there's more and more war, more and more natural disaster, more and more virus, more and more death, more and more hospitalization, more and more disagreements, more and more anger. And if you're not feeling bad already, or if you were feeling good before it, you're probably feeling bad now. I apologize. But I did that on purpose because there is a way out. Ready? Take a breath in through the nose and release. Soft shoulder, soft elbow, soft knees. In through your nose and releasing all the stories and the drama. And one last deep breath in. Connecting with me through Chi, eternal energy, the breath of life that connects us all. All right. So just now, you had a little bit of a reprieve from all of that bad news that I rattled off. You have a choice now to pick up another complaint and say, yes, but Dr. Marissa, didn't you hear about Afghanistan? Yes, but Dr. Marissa, didn't you hear about? And you have that choice right now in this moment to pick up another thing to be angry about, to pick up another thing to be worried about, to pick up another thing to be frustrated with, to pick up another thing to be aggravated or exasperated. I love that word. Exasperated with. Don't like the feeling, but I love the word because it's very descriptive. You can choose to pick up the next thought and let it be something that continues you on your rampage of relentless rage. Triple R. Or you can pick up a thought that allows you just a little bit of light. And you, and only you, have the power to do that. So I use ICBW a lot. I think I mentioned this last week in a question of the week, and I had a bunch of people thank me for that. So that always tells me that if you haven't heard it yet, you're going to hear it again because you need to, or it's something new. ICBW stands, it could be worse. It could be worse. So whatever you're complaining about, let's take the example of the pandemic. Okay, so it could be worse. We could not have a vaccine right now, no matter how you think about vaccines. They are helping. We could be a country that's not getting the vaccines if you are a vaccine understander. We could be in a country that does not have any kind of financial relief. We could be in a country that does not have free vaccines if you want them. I just covered that event you saw earlier down in Hollywood for at the United Methodist Church. And we have lots of really helpful healthcare workers who are begging you. Did you see the story on the doctors in Florida that are protesting the people who don't get vaccinated because they're hurting not just themselves, but they're overloading the hospital systems. So it could be worse. We could not have the vaccine. We could not have a solution. We could not have the majority of the people who now know how many people have to die, folks? How many people have to get sick and then say, I should have never spoken against the vaccine? There's a plethora of that out right now. I'm not going to mention names because I know that there's a group of you all, well, you're probably not listening now, but there's a group of people that there's just nothing I can say that's going to make you change your mind, that you're going to be mad that it's a mandate. You're going to be mad that it's a conspiracy. You're going to be mad. I'm talking to the people who are on the fence. Please, 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 please. If it's do your research and please go to credible sources and please don't listen to people who don't know. I was going to put up a plaque that said, those of you who think you know everything are really bothering those of us who actually do. And you can say, that's your opinion, Dr. Marissa. Yes, it is. Everybody has a right to my opinion. I'm the one that has invested my blood, sweat, and tears to have this show, to splatter more hope and happiness. I'm the one that gets up and does this. I'm the one that writes, produces, and puts together the guests and, the questions and all of that. You can do that too. And if you're listening and you've learned something, which I'm grateful for all of the really kind messages, and my numbers are unbelievably wonderful. And I'm so glad that I'm not talking to myself only here, but there's lots and lots of you who are listening. So I'm going to use that to say, please, 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 if you're still on the fence about vaccines, come back, because after the break, I'm going to spotlight my staff physician, Dr. Alya Khan, who's come on several times, one to talk about masks, and then more recently to talk about vaccines, for the science behind vaccines. And those of you who I had this thought, you have no problems vaccinating your pets, that's good for them. Then why is there a breakdown on the science and methodology of vaccines? Again, if you're completely against them and there's nothing I can say to convince you, please, I'll see you tomorrow. But this, right after the break, when we come back, I'm going to again try to offer hard science, medical science that we've trusted to reduce polio in our population, that has made real big strides in early detection for cancer. So it's the same medical science. These are the same doctors that we have trusted, who continue to absolutely encourage us to get the vaccine. All right. So that's when we come back, Dr. Alya Khan. Don't go away. This is Take my advice. I'm not using it. Get balanced with Dr. Marissa, the morning show here on KCAA, the station that leaves no listener behind.
Take back your life with Dr. Marissa Pay.
And we're back. You're tuned into Take My Advice. I'm not using it. Get balanced with Dr. Marissa, the morning show here on KCAA AM 1050, FM 102.3, FM 106.5, and streaming everywhere. Especially on my free subscribe YouTube channel, where you will get everything and more. And I'll leave it at that. I want to have enough time to highlight a lot of the medical science around vaccines that if you maybe were adamantly against it, but now you're willing to listen to credible doctor who's also has a degree in environmental toxicology, talk some medical science sense, then this is it for you. Enjoy. A few months ago, I brought on an expert to talk about to mask or not to mask. And now the question is to vaccinate or not to vaccinate. So I brought back I'm going to call her my staff doctor for the show. And she is Dr. Alya Khan, Occupational Medicine Residency Director and Assistant Clinical Professor at UCI. She's a board certified in both internal medicine and occupational medicine. Dr. Khan completed her residency training in internal medicine from Mountainside Hospital in Montclair, New Jersey, and a fellowship in occupational and environmental medicine from UC Irvine, where she also received a master's degree in environmental toxicology. So please welcome back to my studio, Dr. Alya Khan. Dr. Khan, welcome. So glad you could join me again. Thank you for taking the time, because you really are it's not token, but you are definitely my resident expert in something that I never thought would have so much issue, which is medical science. So you are my representative of medical science, and there's a lot of hullabaloo around vaccinations right now as we try to vaccinate people in America, and never thinking it was going to be this much trouble as well. But I wanted you to provide some reason and basis in medical science about vaccination. So I'm going to rewind right back to the beginning, just about vaccinations that, we kind of lost sight. Either you're someone who, just, okay, here you go, vaccinate me and no questions asked, and just take the mainstream, okay, vaccinations are good for you, to this new thing that is just like, oh no, you're not touching me. So why would we want to vaccinate anything in the first place? So the history of vaccination in a little short time.
Sure. Thank you for having me on again. It's a pleasure to be here. Just as a reminder, I'm here to, let you know my personal views as a physician, and not here to represent my employer. And it's a great question asking about, the history of vaccinations. I think immunizations are, one of the miracles of medical science, that before we had immunizations, we had rampant infectious diseases, many deaths, and other issues and permanent issues. People can remember polio, and how many people became disabled at young childhood age. And now we don't have that issue. We're immunizing our children against polio, amongst many other diseases that can cause many ramifications, chronic issues and disability and death. And really what immunizations are is a way for your body to be able to fight an infection if you were to be introduced to it. So we have this amazing immune system where we can, and I tell this to my kids all the time about immunizations and how we build up antibodies to infections. And sometimes if we get infected, our immune system attacks the bacteria or the virus and eliminates it from our system. And it creates memory of that bacteria and the virus, so that we were exposed to it in the future, we can then fight it. But our immune system is also limited in the fact that we may not be able to fully fight the infection when we are sick, and that if we get reintroduced to a certain virus again, we may not fully be able to fight it again. Much like the common cold, which is a coronavirus, we can get common colds every year. And so we kind of lose that memory sometimes too. So immunizations really do help us prevent getting infected from very severe infectious diseases, and gives us that memory to fight them, even if we've been infected in the past too. So that's the basic, I would, very basic overview of why immunizations are important.
Got it. So let me see if I understood that. The body has a natural disease-fighting ability that produces something to fight whatever that disease is. And by introducing a small bit of the actual disease, the body produces antibodies or an ability or a memory, as I like the way you said that, I've never heard that before, a memory of what that foreign body is to fight. Did I get that?
Yeah, you did a great job.
Okay, good. Sometimes I have to make sure I got that. So that's the principle or the fundamental science behind vaccinations, right? So if we go back, like you said, polio, and like flu shots, I don't even remember when that came in, but we began to make vaccinations, in kids, right? We want to protect them in school from getting those diseases that used to kill the kids, right? And for the most part, what was the data? So I would say, like you said, sometimes it forgets the memory. So even if you've had a vaccination, sometimes you're still going to get that sickness, right? There is that possibility. And if you're sick, sometimes by getting the vaccination, it can make you sicker. Is that accurate? Because the system is not perfect?
No, I would say that about our immune system, not about the vaccinations. That our immune system is not perfect. Okay. That's why you can get multiple colds in a year and colds year after year. We don't have a vaccine for the regular coronaviruses that cause the common colds. Flu is a bit different in that we do get the flu shots every year because we have different strains of flu floating around. So we have to be able to predict and expect what kind of flu we'll be having in our area, and then scientists develop the vaccine accordingly. So it's really our immune system is not perfect and needs that help from immunizations.
Got it. Now, what's the difference between cold viruses, which you say coronavirus is a cold? So we've had coronavirus for a long time, but we didn't necessarily associate all of this craziness with it, right? And then you have flu. So give me a little basic lesson around that.
Well, they're two different viruses. Coronaviruses are a family of viruses, really. So there's different types of coronaviruses. So the one that we're battling right now is called SARS-CoV-2. We've had another SARS before that really didn't have much of an effect on the US population. And we have other types of more benign coronaviruses. And then influenza is a virus that causes the flu. So they're different viruses, essentially.
Got it. And because the only difference I know is, what starve a fever, feed a cold. That's basically, never really understood it, but I've heard that, fevers, viruses, there's really, or is it colds? Which one has no solution? Which one, it does not respond to an antibiotic?
Well, our body just can develop antibodies really to any virus or bacteria. It really depends on some of the viruses, just very smart on how they escape and how they react. So, there are many different viruses and bacteria out there. And depending on the virus and the bacteria and how they infect us, is how our body is going to develop an immune response. And everyone's going to be acting differently depending on the virus and bacteria too. Some people who have a lower efficient immune system, people who are on immunosuppressant medication, for example, may not be able to fight a virus or a bacteria as compared to a young, healthy person. So there's a lot of nuances there.
Got it. So, so now we're to today with this special coronavirus. And the last time you came on, one of the things that I got out of it is how much we don't know. At that time, we did not know very much about the coronavirus. We didn't understand it. We didn't, we couldn't anticipate. We were just really clueless as to this specific strain of the coronavirus. So what has changed since we last talked about what we do know about the coronavirus?
So yeah, when we started with the pandemic back in January, February of last year, and really March, we knew very little about the virus. It's a novel coronavirus. It's a new coronavirus, and we're still learning. We have to be humble that we're still learning about this virus. But in the span of a year, we have learned a lot about this virus and how it attacks the immune system, what kind of illness it can cause, at least in the short term. We still have to learn more about the long-term effects about this virus, which is the scary part. And we've learned how to prevent infection, masking, social distancing, hand washing, they work. And how to treat infections in the hospital. We've gotten better in terms of treatment. And now the fact that we have not just one vaccine, but 2 vaccines, possibly 3 in the near future, that is a scientific miracle. I would just say that.
It is a scientific miracle. So yeah, let's talk about that miracle. Like you said, there's 1 or 2 out, and I've heard and spoken to people who say, I believe in vaccinations. I think they're a good thing. I want to get a vaccination, but I'm a little concerned. Like, this was such a, is it really a miracle, or is it a rush to, we got to fix this. We got to get a solution. So let's rush to clinical trials, rush through that process, rush through the normal, what takes years, and jump on it so that it takes 3 months. So can we trust this whole process that to bring to market these vaccines?
So the trials that were done for the vaccines that are now have a EUA approval from the FDA, the Pfizer and the Moderna trials, they were speedy in their development and their trial, but that doesn't mean that there were shortcuts. And the FDA has reviewed the studies, and they have a high standard for safety. These clinical trials are very robust. And like I said, held to a very high standard of safety. And there are multiple phases to a clinical trial. You probably heard on the news, you have your phase 1 trial, phase 2, phase 3. And all these phases are looking at safety and efficacy of the vaccine. So, our listeners should really understand that there's such a high integrity and ethics that are involved in doing clinical trials. Also important to note that we've been studying coronaviruses for a long time. So even though this is a novel coronaviruses, scientists have been studying other types of coronaviruses. This specific coronavirus was genetically sequenced in the early days of the pandemic, which really helped scientists get a hold of, how this virus is infecting people, and then subsequently starting to make or develop research to make this vaccine.
Mm-hmm.
The Pfizer, yeah, go ahead.
No, go ahead.
Oh, so I was just going to say that the Pfizer and the Moderna vaccines have what's called mRNA technology, and which is a huge thing because it's the first time we're using it in a vaccine. However, it's not the first time it's been used or researched. And scientists have been using mRNA technology to look at other vaccines and cancer research. And it's very nimble in how we can use this new technology with vaccines. And funding, I just have to say there's been a lot of funding that's put into this specific vaccine trials, which we typically don't get in other vaccines. And if you really have funding, you can get a lot done. There's also been a lot of collaboration between different countries and leaders and governments and scientists and researchers and pharmaceutical companies, because we're in a pandemic and this is an emergency, and there was a sense of need to do this as fast as possible without cutting any corners, really. Mm-hmm. And the other thing I would just note is with clinical trials, you need enough volunteers to participate. And really, they did get a lot of volunteers in both the Pfizer and the Moderna, which helped get to their results.
Beautiful. This whole conspiracy justified ignorance is what I'm calling it. My new hashtag is justified ignorance. It's that if you're listening and you have set your mind that this is, just a bunch of people like Bill Gates who want to get rich, and so all this, vaccines is just to make the companies rich and to scare the common person, speak to that, please.
Well, I would just say that knowledge is power. And especially in this age of digital media, social media, we can get our knowledge from so many different sources. And it can be very confusing. I have patients who, are regularly confused about what is the reality? Is this a good thing? Is this not a good thing? There's a lot of mixed messages. So I understand if people are confused, because there's a lot of different ways that we can get our news and our information and our resources. So I think being able to know what your reputable resources are is very important, and being able to just educate ourselves on the science and the facts can help us with any uneasiness that we may have, any questions that we may have. So I would just say, trust the scientists and the physicians, and read up on using reputable journals and articles that are out there. Sometimes the mainstream media may not be able to provide all those type of resources to us. But the CDC has some great information on their website for the public, and your local healthcare departments may have them in Orange County. So the Orange County Healthcare Agency website has a lot of information and FAQs that the public can read up on the vaccine.
Beautiful. And where do you go for your information besides the Orange County?
It depends on what I'm looking for. So if I'm looking for, data on, how many vaccines are out there and what the case numbers are looking like, the health department and is a great resource because I want to know what's going on in my local area. Johns Hopkins website has another great resource to track, globally the cases that are going on. And I personally read journal articles that are evidence-based, peer-reviewed journals from, like, example, New England Journal of Medicine. They have a lot of great information. It's more technical though, so if you want to really get into the weeds of the vaccine, they have a great FAQ document too. That if you really want to get into the weeds, you can look into that too.
Beautiful. Yeah. I mean, I think that is really, if we're going to make this work, we have to stop, contempt before investigation and running off with whoever posted the last sensational thing about, the vaccinations and all of this cancel culture that we have, and the social media trying to control what is said and what is not said. I think the knowledge is power is, as you said, the most important thing. Do the research, look it up yourself. Don't believe a flash in the pan statement from anyone. And I have to say this because, without getting political, we've really had trouble with conspiracy theory more than we ever have in our entire my experience alive. And I think one of the reasons is the Chinese philosopher Lao Tzu says, in the absence of greatness, pettiness prevails. And that, to me, explains why we've had problems with conspiracy theories. We've got no leadership saying, this is what we're facing, and the transparency. So now the good news is we have transparency. So what does an average person need to do besides masking, besides social distancing, besides washing your hands a lot? Are there any supplements to be taking? I've been taking zinc and vitamin D because I heard that, because we're spending more time indoors, we're not getting as much sun. Do you have any recommendations that way?
I mean, supplements can be great to boost the immune system. So that would be fine if people wanted to do something like that. They can certainly talk to their personal doctor too about their personal health concerns. If they're at the higher risk category, if they have other medical conditions, they may want to be a little more careful. But really, masking, social distancing, washing hands, staying away from people is the most important thing you can do. I can't emphasize this more that, people getting into these bubbles and these pods can be risky. Life is not without risk, of course. So whenever we're making these types of choices, whether we go out to meet with a friend, or we invite someone into our home, or we go to the grocery store even, we're all taking some type of risk. So we just need to take that into consideration as we move forward, and making sure that we try to mitigate and lower that risk as much as possible with our daily actions.
Right. So, I mean, even as we sort of have more hope, like someone will say, let's have dinner together, and we'll stay socially distant, and we'll, sit 6 feet. And then I see them and they go in for a hug and I'm like, I want to highlight what you're saying about the vaccine, that even if one person has had the vaccine, that does not mean that it is not transmissible, right? They are helping themselves with the vaccine, not necessarily protecting me with that vaccine. Is that about accurate?
Well, we don't know for sure yet, right? So we're still looking for the data on transmissibility. We expect that it's likely reducing transmissibility. And from early data from the Moderna vaccine, we did see some of that. But certainly if someone has had their vaccines and they're getting together with other people, public health officials are not recommending that yet. We're not recommending easing up on our social interactions. Doesn't mean that you can't still stay in touch with people. I mean, mental health still remains a big issue in this pandemic, and we still want people to stay connected, whether it's through the phone, Zoom, and being responsible when we meet with each other. We don't want people to be isolated either.
Right. That is the balance that's going on, because they're doing studies now of what happens to your mental health 8 months without a hug. And it's realistic. And, for you have a family, that's kids and a husband. I'm on my own, I do this every day because it stimulates something comforting. And it is something that I recommend too with my clients. as well as meditation, as well as a gratitude list, as well as, I wrote an article with tips specifically. Every day is a mental health day, folks. This is your responsibility to pick up the phone or to do the Zoom. So absolutely, that's important. Now, so for those who say, if we're not sure about all of the efficacy, why bother with the vaccine? So we're going to go full circle now. What are the benefits of having this COVID-19 vaccine?
So it's always, it's kind of like the glass half full analogy, right? You can either look at it as half full or half empty. So the fact, like I said, is there has been 95% efficacy with both Pfizer and Moderna. I mean, that's an A, right? If you get a 95% on your test, that's also great, right? So that's what I would look at it. When I make recommendations to my patients or my family, I always look at risks versus benefits. What is the risk of the vaccine? What is the risk of having the actual infection? What's the benefit, right? And there's a clear bias towards the benefit of the coronavirus vaccine. And there's a much higher risk of the infection complications, right? The infection is not without complications. And
let's talk about that. I want to be very clear about what we're vaccinating against, because some people, saw Trump, got it, no big deal, he's fine. Most people have no problems with it, so it's really overdone, and we're making a big thing out of nothing. So speak to that. What are the complications? What is real about this virus?
Like I said, this is a novel coronavirus, so we're still learning about the ramifications of this virus. And so, yes, most people who develop COVID-19 fare fine in terms of, not getting hospitalized or getting or dying from the actual vaccine. Though the mortality rate is still higher than the flu. But a lot of people do get hospitalized, and they may not necessarily have underlying medical conditions. So we just want to make sure people are aware of that. And we're still learning about the possible long-term effects and the issue of what's called long haulers, if you may have heard that, where people who recovered somewhat from COVID-19, but are still having residual symptoms months after the initial illness. It's actually very scary, where they get this excessive fatigue, trouble breathing, body aches. And these are people who are healthy and somewhat athletic, and people who are marathon runners and whatnot. So we don't know why it's happening to these people, and that's being investigated. There's been studies that's shown some underlying cardiac heart effects on people who develop COVID-19, neurocognitive issues that can develop, people developing brain fog and everything. So, there's a lot we still have to learn about the long-term potential effects from COVID-19, especially those who have underlying medical conditions too. But it can happen in young, healthy people as well. So there's a lot of risk in contracting COVID-19. We shouldn't be treating this mildly, I would say.
Mm-hmm. And I really thank Dr. Alya Khan for all that she continues to do. And, we say that we appreciate our healthcare workers, our frontline. If you really do, then you will get vaccinated, because the ones who are treating the coronavirus are saying, wear a mask and get a vaccine. So if you want their help, then help yourself first. And I know I'm going toe-to-toe with a large number, unfortunately, of my friends who are extremely anti-vax, but I have to balance that out. I know beyond a shadow of a doubt, I'm here. I say, speak through me. Don't let me get in the way. Let the words be thine, the words and the voice be mine. And I do know that, yes, we should eat well. We should take care of our health. We should go outside for walks. We should do all of those things that maybe we don't always do to take care of our health. Not so much sugar, definitely no processed food, but the vaccine is for us. It is medically designed. There was no rush. If you heard her words, it was, the reason why we could come to such a quick vaccine was an unparalleled amount of cooperation among businesses, organizations, medical research facilities. So let's not throw the baby out with the bathwater. Let's get the vaccine so we can return to all those things that we love to do. Yes, but I don't want you to return back to normal if you were miserable 88% of the time. Go watch my new short film, The New PPP, which is now available for everybody on YouTube. No cost, thanks to the donations from my birthday, which are on my Facebook. You have 2 days left to donate. But please, please, please take care of your health. Be responsible for yourself and your loved ones. This is Dr. Marissa reporting live from my living room during the pandemic, asking you to get vaccinated and also have the best day ever, because it's all about balance. Peace in, peace out, world peace through inner peace.